get out there and register to vote. And on August 3rd, show up to the polls. Your livelihood depends on it, period. Half a day and welcome to the Hub. I'm Nick Delgado. 25 candidates are running to be your senator in the 38th Guam legislature. Only 15 will make it to lead. Their fates rest with you, the voters. For the next few weeks leading up to the primary, we will hear from those candidates. Tonight, we've got on the Democrat ballot incumbents Joseph Agustin and William Parkinson. And under the Republican ballot, we have incumbent Chris Duenas and newcomer Vince Borja. Half a day, gentlemen.
Half a day.
Candidate William Payne was scheduled to join us tonight, but was unable to attend. So let's get to it. For the first round, each candidate gets 60 seconds to speak to the voters, tell them a little bit about each of you. But first, a viral video recently circulated showing responding Guam police officers, one kicking a detained suspect on the ground while another tasering him, sparking claims of police brutality. You can see right there on the screen. The chief of police says the case is being investigated. But now I want to speak to each of you, give you at least about 10 seconds after seeing that video to give your take as candidates on the case. And I'll let you guys choose who goes first. All right, 10 seconds on the clock, and we'll start with Senator Parkinson.
I am stridently against all forms of police brutality, especially after somebody has been detained and arrested. It is our responsibility to maintain their welfare.
Thank you.
You know, it's sad sometimes when one or a couple of officers can make it, hard on all the rest of the hardworking officers. We have a crime problem on Guam, but there's no excuse for abusing anyone who's being detained. And it's too bad because most of the cops are great servants.
Thank you.
I mean, I share the same sentiments. You know, it's definitely not something that shouldn't be tolerated, and we'll leave that up to the leadership to conduct a thorough investigation and hold those accountable.
Appreciate it.
As a former police officer, that's not an acceptable practice, and it shouldn't be tolerated, and I'll allow the chief of police to conduct his investigation.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your responses to that. That is our icebreaker for the start of the show. Now to what the voters need to hear, your introductions. Each of you, again, getting 60 seconds here to talk to the voters. And since we started with Senator Parkinson, we'll start with you, Senator Duenas.
Thank you very much. Half a day to the dear people of Guam. My name is Christopher Michael Duenas. I hail from the village of Sinahanya, and I was originally living in Tamuning. You know, this is my fourth term in the Guam legislature, and I'm asking once again for you to consider me in the 38th Guam legislature. I've concentrated on affordable housing. I've concentrated on getting more money to education. This year, $30 million appropriation to our education system. For our hospital, I've worked with our colleagues, a couple of them sitting here, to make sure we got an additional $30 million to the hospital to bail them out of vendor payments, to make sure our hospital can be sound until we can build a new one. I've introduced a bill to make sure that we can, once and for all, bring multi-agency unified law enforcement individuals to fight the ICE epidemic and make Guam safe again. I'm asking you once again for your consideration. Please help me. I concentrate on public safety, education, and healthcare, and I will continue to do that as your senator.
Thank you. That's your time. Senator San Agustin.
I'm Joe San Agustin. I'm from the village of Jigu. I'm married to Joanne Joyce Chargloff from Santa Rita. We have 3 kids. We have 11 grandchildren and 1 great-grandchild. And as far as this would be my 5th term, and I hope to continue to promote fiduciary responsibility to all my colleagues and for the people of Guam. And with that note, I've introduced many bills, and as you see, it talked about all about being accountable, and also expressing my slogan. It's not about the easy way, but the right way. Thank you.
Okay. And Vince?
Hafide Guam, my name is Vince Borja. I come from the village of Mingilao, but I live in Maragata with my wife, Naomi Mendiola Nkenko. I'm an Army veteran. I'm an educator. I'm a small business owner, but more importantly, I'm a son of Guam. I left Guam right after high school to join the military, but I came home to be a part of the community, and I got my degree at the University of Guam. I'm still here, and as much as a lot of my family members have left, I love Guam, I love our home, I love our people, and I'm ready to serve. And so I hope you give me an opportunity to serve you in the Guam legislature. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, thank you for your introductions. Senator Parkinson.
Half a day to the people of Guam. My name is Senator William Parkinson. I'm number 1 on the Democratic side of the ballot, and I'm asking for your vote for re-election. I'm the son of former Speaker Don Parkinson. I was raised here on Guam, went to GW, public school all the way, and when I graduated, I went to the States to become a firefighter. But life took me in a different path and called me back to Guam to take care of my family and take care of my father and run a small business here. Once I saw how difficult things were for so many people just trying to live paycheck to paycheck, I came back home and decided that it was time for me to run for public office. And you gave me an opportunity, and I used my time to put money into people's pockets to help fight the cost of living. One of my key bills was the power credits for 9 months. And so if you elect me as your senator, I hope to continue to fight that cost of living for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for speaking to the voters and telling them a little bit about you. But for now, your Decision 2024 election show continues with more questions for the candidates after this break. You're watching The Hub. More than 174,000 people call Guam home, and thousands more still know it to be home, even if they've since relocated. Welcome back to your Decision 2024 election show, The Hub. Now, each candidate will be given 30 seconds each to answer a question in this round. So let's get to it, and we'll start now with Senator San Agustin for this first question. The question is, agencies like the Guam Police Department continue to train new bodies. Then those officers decide they want to work elsewhere for better pay or other reasons. Do you think that retention pay for local law enforcement is enough? And what do you propose is needed to keep officers from leaving? Again, 30 seconds.
Well, just recently, we just had the Guam Police Department's budget hearing, and they discussed the 25.9% pay increase. And that I'm in support of. Number one, and that's as an adjustment to their pay raise that they had 3 years ago. Now, let's just continue to pay them more because a lot of them are leaving for the reasons of pay. It's not about the condition, it's the pay. And with that, I support their pay increase.
Okay, Vince?
I share the same sentiment. I agree with the pay raise. I know many friends and family members who have left the police force to join the federal police, and as the military buildup continues to grow and expand, we're definitely going to have to be competitive. But we just have to be careful because then it just opens up the Pandora box to other areas within the government and ensuring that there's equitable pay amongst all the agencies.
Okay, Senator Parkinson.
I too have to echo the sentiments of the other panel members up here. I too agree with the pay raises, not just because it's good for our local economy, but we have to compete not just with other jurisdictions, but with the federal government as well. And they have some very, very deep pockets. And there are labor shortages all over the country. And so we got to do this to compete and to keep our people.
Senator Duenas.
So, Nick, from time to time, every time we have our hearings with the chief of police, it always comes down to pay in order to retain our individual officers. And the biggest reason is because of the fact that the federal government is so attractive right now. Up on Anderson with the build-up all over the Navy base and even beyond. It really is, it's really, really competitive now to try to keep our officers. We're not going to be able to afford to give them pay all the time. I support the pay raises that we're putting out right now. So we're going to have to go beyond that. I'm working on a benefits package as well. I've met with several officers, and retention will be all about benefits as well. But it's got to be subject to the officers.
Thank you. That's your time. Thank you all for those responses, candidates. And the second question now, budgeting how we spend taxpayers' money is a yearly thing, like we're currently going over the Balancing Act as we speak. But how would you advocate for increased funding for critical services such as sanitary inspections for public schools, hotels, and restaurants? And please explain. I'll start with you, Vince.
You know, one of the things that I was looking into when I decided to run again was looking into a public-private partnership in offering tax incentives for businesses to fund maintenance program, maintenance and upkeep programs within the Department of Education. But definitely, we understand there's a lot of money around, coming in with the military buildup. But really, now's the time to look at what and how we can sustain operations for the long run.
Okay. Senator Parkinson?
I think in situations like this, rather than leaning on public-private partnerships, we actually have to roll the hard six in terms of doing the hard work of budgeting these agencies that are supposed to be doing these jobs and actually make sure that they do them. Right now we have skeleton crews on some of these agencies just to have the agency, but those agencies aren't actually effective. And so, we got to do the hard work, because public-private partnerships are great when times are easy, but when they're problematic, they're very problematic. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Duenas.
Great question for the budget season. So our chairman's sitting here, and I'm hoping that in this budget season now, we've had this unprecedented amount of surpluses, and they're going to good causes right now. But I think it's time to revisit once again and make sure we go back to the priorities like you mentioned. Public health and making sure that these sanitary inspections are done and funded. Education has asked for their money. We need to give it to them. UOG has asked for additional revenue. So I think right now we have to base ourselves on what projections are coming in and start with public safety, healthcare, and education, and then everything else from there. But now we got to start fixing these costs.
Okay. Senator Sen Agustin.
Nick, I want to ask you to ask that question one more time, just so I make sure
Sure.
I've got it clear, because as I'm hearing the response, I'm kind of like wondering, what was the real question you asked?
Would you advocate for increased funding for critical services such as sanitary inspections for public schools, hotels, and restaurants? Please explain.
I would advocate for increased funding for the agencies that need the funding. Number one, we got to take a look at what are they spending the money they got to begin with. Number one, we're not only having them have general fund, but they have access to federal grants that provide the funding they need. DOE, for example, has additional $40-some million. Public health is 163. So we need to ask the question, where are they spending the money, and is it being used accordingly?
Thank you. That's your time. Thank you, gentlemen, for this round. Keep it locked here to your Decision 2024 election show. Time for another break. This is The Hub. Hit by a pandemic, then battered by a Category 4 storm, Guam has been in recovery mode nearly half a decade. Welcome back to your Decision 2024 show, The Hub. Candidates, you each will now get 30 seconds this round to answer after hearing a question from one of the members of our community. In this part of The Hub, we call it What We Want.
Janela Cruz, and if I could ask a question to a candidate, it'll be how soon can they help to bring or get the schools, back on track for the next school year. Yeah, just that. Just for my kids and my grandkids, pretty much. That's all.
All right, so we'll start with Senator Parkinson for this one.
Thank you for that question. One of the things I'm looking at is we have this problem with procurement in the schools, but we have problems with procurement everywhere. So what I'm looking at is if we have problems with procurement everywhere, maybe procurement is the problem and not these individual places that are having problems with procurement. So I would actually look to, it's not a really sexy answer, but I would look to doing procurement reform to fix a lot of these institutional problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Duenas.
Yeah, I got to piggyback on that as well. I think this procurement situation, because we know now, Nick, hasn't been a money problem. We've had hundreds of millions of dollars ARP funding, but it's not moving. The other thing is she talked about preparing the schools. I think we need to work closer with the executive agencies and utilize every hand on deck that we can to work over the summer to get these schools ready, particularly with public health, to make sure these sanitary permits are at the top of the level, because that drives everything that happens in the schools. If they've got their sanitary permit, that means they're ready to open and serve our children.
Thank you. Senator Sen Agustin.
What we would do to fix the schools, number one, what was very disappointing is during the COVID, there was 2 years the schools were closed and they received the ARP money. They should have fixed the schools then. Right now, all we're doing is doing catch up. That's something that we need to put that in the forefront, and as we went through their budget, we intend to make sure and demand that they account for the schools being open on time.
Okay. Vince?
They said pretty much everything that probably we should be doing, and obviously procurement is a big thing. Like, one of the former speakers said, in regards to really looking at the process and looking at what we can do to streamline, what it takes to get procurement done in the government, but also looking at what the maintenance plans look like in the long term, and I think that's where we should focus.
Okay. Let's get to another question now from one of our voters.
I'm Demi Shimizu, and I'm from Ipan, Talafofo. And I wanted to ask, what will you guys do to protect us or prevent us from any cyber threats in the future?
There you go, Senator San Agustin. I know you're excited for this question.
For the cyber threat, right now, that's a big issue in our body right now. And we're promoting that to every agency to make sure that there's funding identified to protect, all the cyber threats. And with that, we just got to wait and let the system work its way, because if we expect it to be protected today, we got to make sure they're prepared to move on tomorrow.
Okay. Vince?
So, with cyber threats, I think the biggest thing is education. The legislature is doing, I know there has been a lot of programs that have come out with the executive branch and the legislature with looking at how to address the cyber threat in the region because of China. But I also think that we need to look at the curriculum, and not just in the public schools, but even within the colleges, and look at expanding our cybersecurity program.
Okay. Senator Parkinson?
When I'm looking at this problem, there's two areas I think we need to tackle at, because this is very important, especially in the GPA space, where we got to protect our electricity infrastructure from cyber threats. One is we have to make sure that our equipment is up to snuff to deal with these threats, have the proper computers, the proper firewalls, the proper equipment, the software to prevent these things from happening. And two is proper training so that the people using these machines aren't making the mistakes themselves, so we don't have human error playing a part as well. Thank you for that.
Thank you. I'm sure the voters were listening in because they did want to know those specific questions. So thank you for those responses. Let's go now to Senator Duenas.
Thank you, Nick. I didn't want to miss out on this. I didn't want to miss out on this.
Let's give you your 30 seconds.
Yeah, Nick, the thing is Office of Technology, OTEC, is really at the center of this. And the biggest thing that I see that I'd like to see more of is the operation between OTEC and the Fusion Center. Guam now has a Fusion Center, which takes all federal and local law enforcement, and this is one of their primary responsibilities. I think also uniformity. I've heard from different agencies, and I've heard, one of the major issues is what equipment, what safety measures are they putting in? Some got really, really robust capabilities, and others are lacking behind. So I think we need to unify the system.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for your responses. Well, let's keep the energy up, and the questions coming. These candidates get a final round here on the Hub when we return. Elected to make and change laws that govern what you do. This is your Decision 2024 election show, The Hub. We want to thank the candidates for joining us today. Let's get to another question. And again, candidates, 30 seconds each to respond to this question. June is Pride Month, a time to celebrate the LGBTQ plus community and equality for all. But even in 2024 and on an island that's known to show love, hate still circulates each time this month in our community. As someone who wants to lead this island, how do you plan to further the fight for equality, no matter gay or straight? I think we're starting with you, Vince.
I think, the biggest thing that we obviously need to start with is within our schools. With our community and in our schools, and ensuring that, because it starts with with our younger generation, and then of course working with the community and the organizations. I know there was the new organization that just got stood up, or that just started, and working with them and partnering with the business community and the government as well, to ensure that people are treated equally and they feel safe, and that they're protected within our community.
Thank you. Senator Parkinson?
I think the best way to really help these communities out and really to help the island adjust is to just be the change that you want to be. You know, normalize this, be part of them, treat your LGBT neighbors with respect and as human beings, and just be the example other people could look up to. Because if I'm out here treating them like normal human beings, other people will see that and treat them the same way. And we should all treat each other with love and respect and kindness and compassion. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Duenas.
You know, hate in any format is just terrible. But hating an individual for who they are and you know, understanding that love conquers all. I just really hope at some point, and this is not legislation, this is who we are, right? That we go back to our anaphemalic spirit, that we go back and remember. You know, a lot of people that come to Guam don't see some of the things that are internal to us. You know, they see still a remnant of when we're so, you know, we're a community that loves each other and tries to help each other. We're losing that, and as examples, we need to start showing that that still exists with us and our families.
Thank you. Senator Agustin.
We need to first, number one, practice equality. Everybody deserves everything everybody else gets, LGBT or not. And you have to remember, Nick, on my first term, I introduced a bill to protect the LGBT when they need to, you know, they have the universal restrooms. And I was struck down by folks that were even part of that group. And today, I am fully in support of the LGBT, and I treat everybody equal. Everybody needs to be treated the same way. I retired from the Army fighting for the freedom that we all enjoy today.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen, for your responses. Now, candidates, it's your time to shine. Each of you will now get a final 60 seconds here on the Hub to speak to the voters. So let's make it count. And I think I'll start with Senator Duenas.
Thank you, Nick, and to the people of Guam. You know, my slogan is focused, balanced, and ready. And the reason why I do that, and I've adopted that, was because I think as a senator, you need to focus. But you also need to make sure that you have a balanced point of view and understand the way that everybody thinks when you come to a final decision. And ready, if God, always be ready to serve. What I loved about this segment the most was listening to the people and the questions that were brought to us. You can see that the people are concentrating on education. They're concentrating on public safety. They're asking us what we're going to do to secure our island and make sure cybersecurity is at the top of our mind as well, from threats abroad and internally. I will be that senator that will continue to fight for those issues. I will be that senator that takes my record of accomplishment now going forward to continue working on those items. A balanced budget and getting you the priorities funded is what I think you're asking for. We had unprecedented millions of dollars. It's time to spend them on priorities. And as my friend said over here, let's get as much federal dollars as well. Thank you very much. I'm Senator Chris Duenas, and I ask once again for your vote of confidence to the 38th Guam Legislature.
Thank you, Senator Duenas. Senator San Agustin.
All right, thank you, Nick. I'm number 6 on the ballot. Folks, I've always stressed the fiduciary responsibility that we must maintain in the legislature. And I hope that all the incoming, whoever makes it on this election in November, has that focus. Because number one, yes, we've had unprecedented surplus of money. But you have to remember that the reason why we have a surplus is because we've been very conservative. And being conservative, we made sure that we didn't make the government overspend or think they have a lot of money. And what was the end result? Everybody has benefit from this surplus. And we got to make sure that we maintain our fiduciary responsibility. Everybody wins. Everybody's been winning. But at the same time, like my colleague has brought up, we need to keep reaching out to the federal government because there's hundreds of millions of dollars out there that hasn't been tapped. We need to reach out and grab that money because you know what? Federal money, they make the money. We just need to be able to spend it all. Thank you.
Thank you. Vince?
Thank you, KUM, and thank you to the people of Guam for the opportunity. Again, my name is Vince Borja. I'm running as a Republican. You know, over the course of my life, the one thing that I've always done as an adult is work to serve others. I served in the military. I served, I'm in a couple of nonprofit organizations serving in the community to help veterans. I'm an educator. I do a lot of youth coaching to help develop our youth in the middle schools and in the community. And I want to continue to serve the people of Guam. I'm here and I'm asking to be given the opportunity to work with, you know, whoever gets elected in November. And I hope to work hard for the people of Guam. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hafaday. My name is Senator Will Parkinson, and I am number 1 on the ballot on the Democratic side of the aisle. I am once again asking for your vote for re-election back into the legislature. As your senator, I have to say it has truly been an honor and a privilege this first term. And I absolutely love my job. I love the things I could do for the people, and I love being your senator. And that if you re-elect me, I will come back with the same enthusiasm to fight for you day in, day out that I have always brung. I've always believed that Guam should do everything it can to always advance into the future, to always advance into greater prosperity, and I will always make sure that as long as I'm in this office, when I leave, Guam will be better than when I found it. And with your help, I hope to get back into the legislature. So please vote for me, number 1, Will Parkinson. Thank you.
Senator Parkinson, Senator Duenas, Senator San Agustin, and Mr. Borja, thank you all for your time here today. And you can make it count by hitting the polls this primary on when? August 3rd. Remember, catch us here on The Hub next Wednesday to hear from more of your senatorial candidates. I'm Nick Delgado. Remember, you can always visit KUAM.com for all your election coverage. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon.